Hello, fifth graders. Welcome back to Inauguration Day 2021. My name is Mr. Cofrancesco from the Connecticut Democracy Center at Connecticut's Old State House. We are coming to you live from the Old State House, the historic Capitol building in Hartford that you see behind me. It is home of the Kid Governor program and has the official office of Connecticut's Kid Governor. Here at the Old State House, we teach about the three branches of government all the time. We have school groups as well as visitors from all over the world who come to our museum to learn about the history of the building and how it was used when it was a capital. Although the museum is temporarily closed because of the pandemic, we have virtual school programs, so your class can still see the Old State House and learn about how government works. But today, you are in for a special treat. You will get to learn about the three branches of government directly from the people who work in them today. We have 5 officials from Connecticut government who have taken time out of their busy schedules to answer your questions. They are going to talk about their roles and responsibilities and give you a firsthand explanation of how the three branches of state government work. And what makes this educational program even more exciting is that it is being hosted by none other than your newly inaugurated Kid Governor, Reese Naughton. If you joined us for Reese's inauguration this morning, you will remember that she is a 5th grader at Oceana Elementary School in Southington. Her platform is Be Positive, Pandemic Perseverance. Today is the first day of her term and she is ready to get started. So, without further ado, I will turn the program over to your 2021 Kid Governor, Reese. Have fun learning about the three branches of state government.
Hi everyone, welcome to our educational program, Meet the Three Branches of State Government. In a normal year, this is when members of the Kid Governor's Cabinet and their classes would be touring Connecticut's Old State House in Hartford, visiting my office, and meeting with members of Connecticut's three branches of government. You would get to see the historic rooms like the House of Representatives chamber behind me, where many of our state's laws were passed in the 1700s and the 1800s. We cannot tour the Old State House today, but we can still have members of the three branches virtually. We are lucky enough to have members of each branch of state government here with us today. We will meet 2 of Connecticut's executive officers, a former justice of the Connecticut Supreme Court and a senator of the Connecticut General Assembly. 5th grade students from around the state have submitted questions, and the officials from each branch of government are going to answer them. We will have 15 minutes to speak with officials from each branch of government. We may not get to every question submitted, but I will ask as many as I can. First, let's meet 2 of our state's 6 executive officers. I'm super excited to welcome Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysiewicz and Attorney General William Tong. The Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General were both elected to their positions in 2018, and as officers in the executive branch, they are responsible for enforcing the state laws. Please give a warm welcome to the Lieutenant Governor Bysiewicz and Attorney General Tong.
Hello. Hey, everyone. And Reese, can I say congratulations to you? I just want to say how excited I am that the trend continues. In case other 5th graders don't know this, you are the 6th girl Kid Governor. And as a woman elected official, I just can't tell you how proud I am of you and all of the participants in this really great program. So congratulations. It's such a great day for Connecticut.
Thank you. And thank you both for being here today and answering a couple of questions from the 5th graders across Connecticut. We have a lot of questions for you both, so I'm just going to jump right in. Our first question comes from Mrs. Trott's class at Osawachi Elementary in Waterford. They ask, what do you do in your day-to-day activities?
Oh my goodness. And I think the Attorney General would probably give you the same answer. This is why I love public service and politics, because every day is different. No one day is the same. Our Capitol is currently closed. However, even through the pandemic, I have had to preside over the Connecticut State Senate. My job is very similar to the Vice President of the United States. Our new Vice President is Kamala Harris. She will be presiding over our United States Senate. I do the same thing for the state, and I will have the opportunity as the legislative session unfolds this year to preside and make sure that the debate in the state Senate goes smoothly. And should there be a tie, and there has not been a tie yet, but if there were to be a tie, I would have to cast the deciding vote. My predecessor, Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman, had to cast a deciding vote 18 times. I haven't been called upon to do that just yet, but I might. The other responsibility that I have under the state constitution is to be governor if our governor is outside the state of Connecticut. And when he goes outside of the state, I usually make sure that I am inside of the state of Connecticut so that I can be governor. And when the governor was recently undergoing hip replacement surgery, for the 2 hours that he was under anesthetic, I got to serve as governor. So those are my constitutional responsibilities.
Thank you, Reese, for your question, and congratulations to you, Reese. You may not know this, but Governor Bysiewicz wrote a book about the first woman to serve as governor in her own right and elected in her own right in this state, Eveleigh. I should also note, you heard me call Governor Bysiewicz. In our state, when the governor is not in the room, you refer to the lieutenant governor as governor. And so that's why I'm calling her Governor Bysiewicz. And it's great to serve with her, and congratulations to you and your cabinet. And thank you for your vision for this year, being positive and being and having perseverance during the pandemic. As your Attorney General, my job is to represent the state of Connecticut and to provide legal advice to the state of Connecticut every day, to all of its officials in their official capacity, all of its different agencies and branches. And so my job when I walk in the morning is to think broadly about what does the state of Connecticut need today from its chief legal officer, its attorney general. And lately, a lot of that has been advising the governor and the lieutenant governor on how to navigate the pandemic and what executive orders the governor needs to enter and should enter, and how he should enter those orders in order to keep us safe. Under our state constitution and our federal constitution, the governor has very broad authority to take steps in a public health emergency like the one we're in now to keep people safe and to take steps to protect public health. And so I advise him every day on how to do that. On top of that, I represent the state's interest in protecting the people of our state. I do that by protecting consumers in particular. During the pandemic, there's been a lot of complaints and instances of price gouging, or consumers like you and me and our parents being mistreated by others, and in particular by businesses and organizations that they do business with or interface with. So my job is to protect them. This morning I had a phone call to protect people from what's known as the opioid or addiction crisis. I think many of you may know that there is an addiction crisis in this country, and many people are suffering from drug addiction, and that's been fueled by painkillers known as opioids and the abuse of opioids. And so I was on a phone call this morning in the context of our litigation and investigations in court cases to stop the abuse of opioids and to protect people in this state from the addiction crisis. So that's a short snippet of what I do every day.
And Mr. Attorney General, I do want to say thank you for being my lawyer and the governor's lawyer. Reese recently We were both sued, the governor and I, because of our executive order that requires people to wear masks in public. So, Mr. Attorney General, thank you so much for representing us in that litigation.
Thank you, Governor, for being a good client.
Thank you both for answering that. Our next question comes from Mrs. Ashley's class at Kennelly School in Hartford. They want to know how the pandemic affects how you carry out your responsibilities.
Oh my goodness, it has affected our jobs in so many ways. I see the Attorney General sitting in his home. This is my dining room. So I do go to the Capitol probably several times a week, but I have been doing a lot of work from home because our state capitol has been closed to the public since March, just as the State House has been closed. Nonetheless, the governor and I have been working very hard to address this pandemic that has killed more than 400,000 people across our country and more than 4,000 people in our state. So a big part of my day, every day, 7 days a week, is making sure that people have access to testing for the virus. We had to start from scratch. We didn't have testing facilities around the state to test people to see if they had COVID-19. Now, thousands of COVID-19 tests are performed every day. We are now in the process of setting up an infrastructure to make sure that every person who wants a vaccination, and we have over 3.5 million people, gets a vaccination. And that is a huge logistical issue. And just today, I was speaking with several mayors and first selectmen and the Commissioner of Public Health, Deidre Gifford, to talk about how residents can most effectively get access to the vaccine, particularly those who are over 75, because right now, those are the people we are focusing on. And Reese, I want to thank you for your mission to reach out to people who are in nursing homes who really have been suffering because they haven't gotten to see their family members and friends visit them in nursing homes as they normally would.
I want to echo what Governor Bysiewicz said. I'm at home in my office, and you may have expected me to be in a suit and tie, but I thought I wouldn't fake it since you can tell. I'm at home. I'm at home because, like a lot of your parents, many of whom are working from home, students across the state, you may be in school, you may be hybrid, you may be distance learning. I have 3 distance learners right now in the house, a 4th grader, a 7th grader, and a freshman in high school. So it's been extraordinarily difficult. The one thing I would say about how it's changed our jobs is that I think Governor Bysiewicz would agree. Now we pitch in and do everything we can to help the state, even if it isn't technically in our job description or in our lane. And so, for example, I've helped the governor acquire PPE. I go out and help Food Share distribute food. We every day we hear complaints, for example, or concerns about the payment of unemployment benefits of people that have lost their jobs, and we try to help out. When people have concerns about getting their unemployment insurance. And so those are not necessarily things that the Attorney General's office has frontline responsibility for every day. But during the pandemic, we've got to do everything we can and lend a hand wherever we can.
Thank you so much. We have another question here. This one is from Mrs. Long's class at Pulaski Elementary in Meriden. What kind of education do you need to get a job in the executive branch?
Here's the good news, Reese, on that one is that each of the officials you're going to talk to today have different educational backgrounds. I think a bunch of us, probably 4 of the 6 of us, have law degrees. Senator Blumenthal had the same job that General Tong has. He was Attorney General for 2 decades before he became a United States Senator. I, like General Tong, am a lawyer. I went to Middletown Public Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. I went to Yale College in New Haven and Duke Law School in Durham, North Carolina. But I'll say, you don't have to be a lawyer to become an executive officer for the state of Connecticut. You can look at people like Nancy Wyman. She was my predecessor as lieutenant governor. She was an X-ray technician. I tell people who are interested in going into public service to learn about whatever subject you're passionate about. If you are concerned about climate change, study environmental issues. If you are concerned about public health, become a doctor or a nurse or a health professional, because our legislature is made up of citizen legislators. It's people who are doctors, people who are teachers, people who are real estate agents, people who are lawyers, all kinds of different people. You don't have to have a specific kind of educational training for Attorney General, though you do need to be a lawyer, and our Attorney General will tell you more about that.
So here's what I would say. We do have a lot of lawyers in government, but it's not essential unless you want to do a lawyer job like mine, or if you want to be the Commissioner of Public Health. It may help to have a background as a doctor, as the commissioner does. But I think the most important thing, and if I can give some advice to all of you, anybody who's considering a career in public service, and I hope that you are, and I hope that you choose to serve at some point, whether or not you do it, here and there, or do it for the focus of your career. It is really important to think about your education not as just school and high school and college and graduate school, if you do that, but also to think about all of your experiences as part of your education. We learn every single day, and I think Governor Bysiewicz is right. Lieutenant Governor Wyman's experience as an X-ray technician, I'm sure, informed her view of what it is to be, somebody in the front lines, for example, of a pandemic, or what it is to be part of a medical practice, or what it is to care for people who need health care. Those sorts of experiences help you be a better public servant. And I was a lawyer for some time. I did a lot of work for businesses, small and large. That really came in handy this morning when I was talking about the opioid crisis and the businesses that have been involved in that crisis. The same with Governor Bysiewicz. She had a private sector background practicing law before she went into public service. And so, make sure that you really fill out your experience as people and in the jobs that you take, particularly those early jobs that you might get after college or graduate school. It's really good to spend some time out there working and experiencing different jobs in different industries and getting a sense of what most people go through every day.
And I'll just add to what the Attorney General is saying. If you think that someday you might like to run for office, or you might like to work in government, you should consider being an intern. So I was an intern for my mayor in Middletown when I was in high school. And when I was in college, I interned for one of my United States senators and my congressman. And now in my office, we have internships for college and graduate students. And I do that because our interns do wonderful work for us. But I also want to give back to the elected officials who gave me the opportunity to be an intern and to watch how government works up close. And there are also internships at our Connecticut General Assembly with our state house and state senators.
Thank you both for your answers. I'm learning so much. Our last question comes from Mrs. Huey's class at O'Connell Elementary in East Hartford. They are wondering what a fifth grader can do to change our state.
Well, I would say you are already doing that. If you are in the Kid Governor program, Reese, you have identified some projects that you are going to work on. You're going to be positively reaching out to nursing home residents, which is a really great thing to be doing. And I know you have some other community projects that are related to the pandemic. There are so many ways to contribute. I'll just give you a couple of ideas. You could be in the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts and work on community projects. The Girl Scouts do a whole variety of volunteer activities, as do the Boy Scouts. You can also do food drives to benefit our food pantries, our food share, and our food bank here in Connecticut. That would be a huge help because so many people are struggling. We've had so many families have job losses that they've experienced, and it's really causing a lot of hunger across our state. The General Tong and I have been at Rentschler Field and other places distributing food. So I'll make that pitch. Also, we've noticed that during the pandemic, animals have been suffering as well. People who've lost their jobs are unable to feed their animals. So there are more animals to be adopted at animal shelters, and there is a huge need for pet food for those animals. And climate change is something that is real. And I'm so glad we have a new president who has already started to address climate change. But you can be involved in recycling and environmental activities in your community, and you can contact your city hall and talk to your recycling director or your environmental director in your city or town to talk about what you can do. And I'm sure General Tong has lots of ideas too.
Well, I think Governor Bysiewicz covered a lot of really important ways you can serve and help improve our state today. One thing I want all of you to do long-term, Reese, you're encouraging people to be positive. That's incredibly important. We've got to focus on being kind, being generous, and being respectful of each other. As fifth graders and the election of the kid governor and your cabinet, this is when all of you, and I know you've already started already, talking about public affairs, public policy, politics, government. Each of you are forming your opinions now. And I think you know that in this country right now, people feel very strongly on a variety of different issues, and people are having a hard time getting along in Washington, D.C. The country is more polarized. And as we saw in Washington with the attack on the Capitol, that is a very, very dangerous place for the country to be in. When people are so angry, so polarized, they retreat to their corners. You probably see it at the dinner table, maybe you and your brothers and sisters or your parents, your aunts and uncles. There are these very, very heated debates and discussions going on. It happens in my house, I'll tell you. And my fourth grader and my seventh grader and my high school freshmen have very strong feelings about politics and government and public policy and all the issues, including climate change that Governor Bysiewicz mentioned. So remember that the most important thing you can do is to try your very best to reach across to somebody who you may not agree with, find common ground, and to strengthen and build your community together. Do everything you can to support democratic government, and to make sure that we honor our responsibility to govern ourselves. You're thinking about that right now, Reese, as our kid governor. This is what self-government looks like, taking responsibility for your state and your community, and we need to do so together with unity and common purpose.
And I would just add to what General Tong has said, and that is the best way to be a good citizen is to know how to be a citizen and to make sure that you are well informed. So by participating in this program and learning about what each branch of government does is so critical to being an informed citizen. And you are learning things today that sadly a lot of adults don't know. So thank you for taking this first step, and please, as soon as you can, when you are 17 and a half, please do register to vote and participate in every election that you have the opportunity to vote in.
Totally agree with that.
Thank you both so much for taking the time to be here today and for answering all of these questions. If there's any way that fifth graders of Connecticut can help can help you this year, please let me know. And I hope we can speak again soon.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you for having us, Reese. We appreciate it. Thank you, General Tong. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Governor Bysiewicz.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from a member of our judicial branch. Dennis Eveleigh is a former justice of the Connecticut Supreme Court and the highest court in our state's government. The judicial branch interprets laws and helps people settle disputes through court cases. Please join me in welcoming former Justice Dennis Eveleigh.
Hello, Reese. How are you? And congratulations to you.
Thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
And answering a couple of questions from Connecticut fifth graders.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Mrs. Long's class at Pulaski Elementary in Meriden and Mrs. Casada's class at West Vine Street School in Stonington both asked the same question. How do you become a judge?
Well, first of all, you have to be a lawyer. And to be a lawyer, as you just heard previously, you go 4 years of college and 3 years of law school, and then you pass the bar exam. And you become a lawyer in Connecticut. To become a judge, it's a matter of initial application. You apply to a commission. There's a judicial selection commission, and you fill out a fairly long application and then go to an interview. And the commission, which is comprised of members of the public, interviews you. There's 12 members, and they ask you questions. And then if they are satisfied that you be qualified, they put you on a list. The governor must appoint members of the judiciary from that list. They cannot go outside the list, but they do not have to appoint everyone on the list. So you've had people who have been waiting on the list for years and have not been appointed. But that is really the process. The governor would then make an appointment, and you'd go before the Judiciary Committee. They would ask you questions, and then they would, after the governor's nomination, they would then recommend you, hopefully, to the General Assembly for a vote, and the General Assembly would then approve you, and then you would become a judge.
Was asked by my class at Oshana Elementary. What is the most interesting case you've ever heard?
I've had, I'm into my 23rd year now, so I've had many cases. One stands out that comes up every year. I was a judge for about 3 or 4 years, and I was sitting in juvenile court. And as part of juvenile court, we have to decide sometimes whether or not parents should remain parents of the children, or whether they should be turned over to some other guardian because there may have been some type of abusive situation, unfortunately, for the children. So I had a case one time where there was a mother who took her child was 6 weeks old, took her child to a pediatrician for a regular checkup. And the pediatrician looked at the child, and the child didn't seem right. The hip seemed off, and several things seemed wrong. So he asked the mother to go directly to the hospital to have the child x-rayed. And the child was x-rayed, and it turned out that the majority of the bones in the child's body were broken. Since the hospital is what's called a mandated reporter, they have to report any suspicion of child abuse to the authorities. And they did their job, reported. And there was another child in the family. So both children were placed with the Department of Children and Families. And it eventually came to me for a trial. And the question was there abuse here? And there were 5 doctors from the state who said this was child abuse. But the parents came in and also said, with 5 doctors, all looking at the same x-rays. And the 5 doctors for the parents said it was not child abuse, that these were healing fractures that had come from child birth. So the question was, is this something the parents did or just the ordinary course of childbirth? The doctor who delivered the child had 35 years of experience. He came and testified, and he said that in his 35 years, this was the most difficult birth he had ever had. The baby was stuck in the canal. He had to go through all the recommended procedures. Nothing worked. So he then had to exert force and pull the baby out as hard as he could. And the other 5 doctors said that in exerting that force, he had fractured the bones, probably saving the child's life and the mother's life. So I had to decide, is this child abuse or not? I eventually said that the state had not proven, to my satisfaction, that there was child abuse. And I ruled that the children should be returned to the parents. And but it's something as a judge in juvenile court, you're always concerned. You never want to return a child to an abusive situation, obviously. But I've checked every year after that point to that judicial district just to make sure there were no problems, and happy to report that the older child graduated college and the young child is now in college. So obviously very happy about that. But that was the toughest case and most interesting that I had.
Thank you for your answer. The next question comes from Mrs. Trott's class at Ozawachi Elementary in Waterford, who want to know if hearings for crimes have gone up or down during the pandemic.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good question. The judiciary has attempted various steps to have trials, but it's a difficult situation, obviously, where you have to have a jury. Most juries in Connecticut are 6 people. If they're in proximity to each other, obviously, you can imagine that it's difficult in this day and age to get juries. So other than emergency hearings, most trials have basically been suspended in Connecticut because of the COVID. So in answer to your question, the number of cases heard would have gone down, developing a certain backlog for when the time that the officials in the judiciary decide that it's safe to again resume all necessary trials and the trials. We're hoping, hopefully we'll see how the vaccine works and, down the road toward the maybe fall or end of the year, but that's up to the powers that be.
Thank you. Mrs. Huey's class at O'Connell Elementary in East Hartford want to know the difference between state and federal courts.
Okay, thank you. State courts normally would deal with Violations, certainly we have a state criminal law that our state courts deal with, and we also have civil laws that the state has. Federal courts have a different jurisdiction. They would deal with violations of federal statutes and certain federal constitutional issues that may arise. So it's basically the state has state constitutional considerations, and the federal would have federal, and again, that same reasoning would apply to state and federal laws. Not to say there are times when you can have cases that overlap. And for instance, on the Connecticut Supreme Court, we would have arguments over a federal constitutional issue and state constitutional issue at the same time. That would happen, but primarily the jurisdiction is based on the origin of the laws.
Thank you for your answer. Mrs. McCurrier's students at Oshana Elementary are asking, what was it like to sit on a Supreme Court?
It's greatest job going. It was the best job I ever had. I had a great time. There was obviously something new every day. We would be dealing with in cases that would come up to us from both the appellate court and sometimes directly from the trial court that affected the lives of many, if not most, people in Connecticut. So it was an honor to serve, and I look back fondly on every day that I spent there.
We have another question from Mrs. McCurrier's students. How do you handle presiding over tough cases and decisions?
Well, presiding over tough cases, really the same principles would apply to any case, that you try to be respectful to both sides and fair to both sides, give everyone an opportunity to have their say, and then make a ruling based upon the law and the evidence as you see it. Sometimes in tougher cases, you may see times when it becomes a little more difficult to control the passions that may arise there. So you have to be a little more on your toes to not let the attorneys get carried away with really maybe the background or the publicity that's going on in the case, and stick to the facts and the law. But the principles are the same in every case, that you want to offer everyone a fair opportunity and then make your decision based upon the law.
Thank you. Our final question comes from Mrs. Kareth's class at Pulaski Elementary, and they want to know, do you have to send a lot of people to jail, or are people mostly innocent?
Sitting as a judge, your assignments may vary. There are basically 6 different areas of the law that you can sit in as a judge, and certainly criminal law is one of the assignments that many people have, and some people stay with that for many years. Certainly you look at each case on an individual basis, and if you went down and looked at statistics for the number of trials, if you're dealing with criminal law, most cases are what's called plea bargain. In other words, they're resolved prior to having any trial. It's only probably about 5% of the cases that actually go to trial. The rest have been resolved short of trial. So on the basis of the 5% that are tried, if you did a statistical analysis of that, you'd probably see that maybe the majority, certainly vast majority, result in guilty verdicts. But there are many cases where there is a not guilty verdict. And so obviously some people involved would be innocent of the charges that are brought based on what the jury says. But again, most cases that are brought, most crimes that may be committed, are resolved in a plea bargaining process. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for having me.
And thank you for your support of the Kid Governor program. I appreciate all of your thoughtful answers to our fifth graders' questions.
Thank you and congratulations. Best of luck to you in your
Thank
term.
you.
It's been a pleasure.
Finally, we have the opportunity to meet and ask some questions to State Senator Tony Hwang, who represents the 28th Senatorial District in the Connecticut General Assembly. As a member of Connecticut's legislative branch of government, Senator Hwang writes, debates, and works to pass laws or state government. Senators and representatives are our voice in government, and in Connecticut, they are elected every 2 years. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Senator Hwang, who is here to answer our questions about the legislative branch. Thank you so much for being here today, Senator Hwang. Kid Governor participants across the state have had lots of questions. Let's jump right in. Mrs. Wong, Pulaski Elementary in Meriden asks, what do you need to do to become a representative or senator?
Hi, congratulations to you, and I don't know how I'm coming across. I'm echoing quite a bit, but that being said, congratulations, Governor Naughton. You're going to do an awesome job, and what an honor to speak with you.
Thank you. So what do you need to do to become a representative or a senator?
Well, we have to, in this day and age nowadays, to be very vetted in technology with doing Zooms and doing the meetings, but really just a sense of community and caring about your neighbors and your town, and ultimately the best intentions of the people you represent.
Thank you. Students in Mrs. Huey's class at O'Connell School in East Hartford want to know if fifth graders can work to change or create laws.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Mrs. Huey's class at O'Connell School in East Hartford want to know if fifth graders can work to change or create laws.
Absolutely. I have a great example that it was maybe 6 years ago. A bunch of fourth graders wrote to me talking about microbeads in our consumer products. And it raised an important issue that I learned because of young people being involved. I'm happy to report because of their advocacy and their awareness of these issues that we passed the law to now have banned microbeads.
Class at Pulaski Elementary are wondering what kind of laws you are working on right now.
Well, we are working on so many different laws, and one of the biggest challenges is the fact that we are all under this COVID environment. One of the biggest things for me to focus on is the fact that we should go to the Capitol and do the work that we have to, but unfortunately, you're now seeing me in my messy home office. We really want to work to get you and your friends back into school and to make sure that everybody is safe and get to learn and interact. I think the other part is a big part of your platform, Governor, is then to address the positive messages in nursing homes. I think that is a fantastic platform, and I'm really, really proud that you're doing that because that is a great idea.
Thank you. Mrs. Ashley's class at Kennelly School in Hartford is asking how the pandemic has affected your work as a senator.
Well, it really has impacted. It has impacted a lot of what we do, and but ultimately we're still able to communicate. And just as we did last year, I want to congratulate former Kid Governor Myra Stanfield. And now you are now inaugurated as a new governor. So, you know, as much as we got challenges ahead of us, I think one of the incredible positives is we continue with business and the government in representing the business of government, which is representing the people.
Mr. Wilcox's students in Meriden are curious to know, what do you do on a day-to-day basis as a senator?
Well, day to day, we interact with our people that are neighbors and people we represent. Then we take their message to Hartford, and we go into our committees. We research bills and we vote on them. And you know, as an immigrant that came to this country, I remember the biggest impact on government was Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill. It was one of the most magical things to remind me that the political process can be as easily understood as people have ideas. People want to have those ideas implemented, and people want to have an impact on laws that affect their lives. And so that's what we do day in and day out. We are a representative of the people, and public service is such a noble gesture, and you being a kid governor is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Mrs. McCurdy's students at Oshana Elementary in Southington wants to know what the most important part of your job is to you.
The most important job is to keep you and your family and the people that we represent safe. And what I mean by safe, it's not just from the physical safety, but the emotional safety and a sense of comfort, a sense of possibilities that you can accomplish and be successful, and the pursuit of happiness. So I think that's one of the biggest parts that reminds me about what we do. We live in one of the greatest countries in the history of this world, and one of the strengths of it is that anybody can pursue opportunities. And so for me, I think it's really important for me as a legislator to empower people to feel that way. You know, part of the challenge for people is they don't think they can attain it. They don't think it's possible. If there's nothing else I do as a legislator is to remind people that anything is possible. You have to believe it, you have to dream it, and then you go and do it. And in this country, that is the hallmark of American greatness. So for me, as a individual, the most important part of my job is to give that people a sense of empowerment.
Thank you for your amazing response. Mrs. Casada's class at West Vine Street School in Stonington want to know how often the legislators meet as a group.
We have met so many times through Zoom. And I really appreciate the chance to be able to interact and learn. You know, it's been over a year since we've gotten together as a legislative colleagues, less than a year, March. But I miss it. And we're going to start having public hearings where we're going to do our best to have people's viewpoints heard and respected. So I think the hardest thing is I miss the people, but we have so many meetings because there's so many issues that need to be heard. And I want to do a big shout out to your other two major pieces of platform for you, Governor, is that you talked about nursing home and supporting them with a positive message. I think the other idea you have, Governor, in regards to a poster contest of positive messages throughout the state, that is fantastic. And I think, you know, the third component of your platform is to think about the mental health and the well-being of your peers is another really important platform. So I applaud you for the insight, but also the passion you have in making a positive difference. So kudos to you, Governor.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Long students in Meriden have a second question as well. They want to know if you have ever spoken with the president.
No, I have not spoken to the president, but I will share with you the students like yourself and children like you make a huge difference. You are equally as important. I mean, you're not, like you're now the governor. You're super influential and you can make policies. But, I think we approach it by saying that the person next to you, the person to your left, to your right, they have ideas and viewpoints, and they are equally as important in having their thoughts and perspectives heard.
Thank you. Our final question comes from my class at Oshana. We want to know what is the funniest law that you have ever seen passed or the funniest law you have ever heard of.
Oh, that's a tough one, Governor. I think one of the most interesting ones was I live in a street right off, and it's called Mountain Laurel. And I always saw the street, and it's a neighborhood. But I have also been taught that one of the laws passed is the fact that Mountain Laurel is a beautiful flower that is predominant in the state of Connecticut. And as a result, the mountain laurel is our state flower, and that is part of the statute. I think the other point of the statute that we made that's very interesting and very important, but we've had legislative approval for awareness days, mental health support, cancer awareness. But we also have dates recognizing ice cream days and pizza days. So we can do a whole bunch of things to recognize things that are super uber important, but also things that are relevant to people's daily lives. And believe me, I wish I could celebrate Pizza Day every single day.
Thank you so much for your time and your answers, Senator Hwang. I really appreciate you being able to be with us virtually today and teaching us so much about the legislative branch of government. If my cabinet or I can be of any help to you this year, please reach out to us.
Thank you very much, Governor. And in reading your platform, I want to applaud you for the 3 things that you're working on. And I would love to be able to help you and spread that very powerful and important message.
Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry about the technical difficulties, Governor. I'm still learning about this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to participate. You know, that building that's behind you, the photograph that's behind you, that is the original General Assembly, where legislators like myself sat and governed. So when you think about the history of the legislative branch in the state of Connecticut started back in 1639. It is the oldest continuous legislative democracy in the world. So you are in the presence of some big time history, and now you're a big part of it now, Kid Governor.
Thank you. That concludes our Meet the Three Branches of State Government program. Thank you all so much for your questions and for being here today. I hope that you've learned as much as I have about our state's three branches of government and the hard work and care that our elected officials put into their jobs. As I begin my term, I hope you will email me at reese@ct.gov. Nope. I hope you will email me at reese@ct.kidgovernor.org. If you have any questions about my platform, I hope to hear from you soon. I'm now going to turn things back over to Mr. C.
Thank you, Reese. You did an awesome job leading that conversation. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To all the students watching, please join me in a big round of applause for Reese and for Lieutenant Governor Bysiewicz, Attorney General Tong, Justice Eveleigh, and Senator Hwang. Let's give them a big round of applause. I don't know about you, but it was so cool for me to hear about how our state government works directly from the people who work in and run it. We have such passionate and dedicated people leading our state, and we are very lucky that across all three branches, they are so willing to speak with young people like you. Maybe you will serve in their roles one day. Our state will always need strong and committed leaders, and you are the future of Connecticut. So thank you, Kid Governor students and teachers, for participating in today's educational program. Teachers, let us know what you and your students learned and are taking away from this experience. Drop us an email or share your takeaways on social media. And remember to tag @CTKidGovernor. Be sure to visit ct.kidgovernor.org in the coming days for a recording of this program and for more information about what we have in store for this year. I hope you're enjoying Inauguration Day 2021. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see some of you shortly for Civics Trivia.